There's a very accurate, although recently politicized narrative on the sophistication of criminals. These groups are very sophisticated, and it is a capitalistic activity for them.
And why is it so hard to catch these guys? Like,
the shortest answer would be they have better technology.
Yeah.
They're more equipped, they're better funded than what your local police department probably has access to.
Hello, fellow data nerds. My guest today is Garrett Langley. Garrett is the CEO and founder of Flock Safety. Flock manufactures hardware like license plate recognition cameras, drones, and video surveillance equipment, as well as software used by law enforcement agencies. Earlier this year, Flock raised $275 million and around that value the company at $7.5 billion. Garrett previously co-founded Experience, a live events platform acquired by Cox for $200 million. And he's co-founded the car subscription startup Clutch. Garrett, welcome to World of DaaS.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm super excited to dive in. Now, what is like data in the data landscape for like law enforcement? Like, what's the state of it?
Yeah, it's messy and old. So, I mean, I'll give you a good perspective, and I won't name the city because I won't give them too hard of a time. But this is, let's call it a top 100 city in terms of population in America. And as of 2 years ago, they were running entirely on-prem.
Yep,
and majority on paper.
Majority
so
on paper.
Imagine your
like
department.
In the folders, like putting it in the file folders. Okay, yeah. Okay.
So I mean, so it's funny. Yeah, it was like you would have thought the cloud. Maybe that's debatable, and it's deeply debatable. Like in a case like Maryland, it was illegal to operate our business in the cloud as of 3 years ago. Illegal.
Yep. Illegal.
Not poorly adopted, illegal.
And was it illegal because like they were just kind of technology laggards? Was it illegal because somebody was trying to do some sort of capture or some sort of other vendor was doing capture? Like what was the reason why it's illegal? Someone just hadn't get around to it.
I mean, regulatory capture is the most articulate answer. I think the gray area definition was there was a lack of clarity on whether or not the cloud or on-prem was safer. Yep. Now, I think that's laughable because I think, it's hard to argue that Amazon, Google, Microsoft, pick your cloud provider, like they're going to have the best safety in the world compared to, an IT department at a local city. That's just, that's really hard to imagine. Not at a hard work, just scale. They can
you see all these IT departments that get, ransomware and other types of things that happen to them at the local level.
Yeah. And so to the sense in the local government side, much of the business is, much of our customers exhibit most of their data practices on-prem. I think the last city to go kind of digital happened a few years ago, like I mentioned, and that was a major city that was still running on paper. And so, yeah, I mean, to give you a sense of scale, imagine you call 911 and you want to build a criminal investigation and a detective has to go through filing cabinets.
Yeah.
Like, don't even think about AI. We have to get stuff digital first. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah. And even when they do go digital, it's not like these data sets are connected. Like they may have to go to tons of different data sets. They may not know where the data is. They may not have access to all the data, et cetera.
That is spot on. And conflated with the issue that, criminals don't really respect or think about where cities and counties start and stop.
Yep.
And so there's no interconnective tissue from city to city, county to county, state to state. There's a little bit of work that the FBI tries to do, but that's pretty light and sparse. It's an opt-in system. It's not a required system. And so you wind up, you could have quite a record in San Francisco, but drive 3 hours south and you're a nobody. You got a clean record.
Yeah, and I assume criminals are, it's not like they're making it easy to, not like they're keeping the name the exact same everywhere they go, and they've got some sort of OPSEC that they're trying to do to make it a little bit harder to connect these databases. I assume, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the best way to think about it is we appropriately have this thing called the Constitution that limits what we want our government to do. Criminals don't have to care. Right. There's no rules for them. And so one of the challenges that our customers face on the local government side is they have a lot of good rules they have to follow. It actually makes their job a lot harder because to your point, criminals will change IDs, they'll change aliases, they'll change vehicles, they'll change everything about themselves city to city. But we have to care about things like privacy and surveillance as we think about kind of the impact we have on local government.
I mean, like I've seen even like I have a lot of friends in law enforcement, married into law enforcement, and I've seen like where people like get like the tapes from like prison or something that they're going through, and it was literally a tape recorder, like, and they're actually pressing on the tape recorder. Like, how far away are we from like, how far are we from like, you could, today you would think you should put all that on the cloud. You should be able to search it for, with text. It should only, if they're talking about things that you're not supposed to hear, it should automatically bleep those out, right? Like how far are we from like just the basic tech stuff?
Pretty far.
Okay.
So we're trying to get there. And I think we've got compelling products that get our customers there. And there's that old saying, right? Like, the future's here, it's just unevenly distributed. I think that's the case. But I mean, if you look at the average city, it is closer to MS-DOS than it is, Windows XP.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say like Windows XP is what you're describing, which would be a more simplistic user interface of I should be able to go in as a detective and say, tell me everything, we know about Joe. That doesn't exist. Now we have a product that does that and it's, fairly well adopted, but by no means are we at 100%, penetration.
When I've seen like certain investigators, and that could be on the federal side or sometimes on the state or local side, and they're looking up databases, it's like the tab world. Like they have like hundreds of tabs they have to go between, and it's like it's usually it's not like the investigator who knows how to do it, but there's like some specialist in the office who's just really good at like navigating all these weird tabs and databases, and somehow they have the right to get into certain things, but they don't have the right to get into others. And I imagine, and they have to like copy it into like some text file and then go back to the other tab. And of course they have this tiny little machine that like with a tiny monitor, so they don't even have like two windows next to each other. Like, am I describing what's normal?
It's spot on. I mean, I'll give you like a really good example of like one of the breaks in the system. So there's a database that we subscribe to called NCIC. It's kind of the FBI's database of outstanding warrants, stolen cars, missing persons, like all the things that you would find interesting. That database, if you want to call it that, more of a CSV file, gets updated like once a day. So you've got like you have a huge issue to begin with, right? Which like, this is not real time.
I mean, that's actually way better than I thought.
Well, hold on. It gets worse.
Okay.
But like, there's no guarantee of data integrity. And so one of the bigger issues that, I don't have a great answer for is, let's say you report your car stolen. That was a rental car. So Hertz calls it in. And then a week later, actually Hertz found the car.
Yeah.
That car is going to sit as a stolen vehicle probably forever. Because Hertz doesn't have necessarily that incentive to call it in that it's no longer stolen. The local agency then would have to call it into the FBI and say, actually, we can mark it as it's not stolen.
Oh, so I could be driving a rental car and like get pulled over as a stolen car or something like that. And it's like legit.
And it's because none of these systems talk to each other.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's annoying.
And so one of the things that it's actually super annoying. One of the things that we push, more as like a policy or as kind of like a implementation is like, hey, you got to check like 3 different systems before you pull someone over.
Yeah.
And that's what leads to human error, because like all it takes is one person, to kind of skip a step and you're pulling over the wrong person. And that's where I think there's a gap in kind of how data flows today amongst local to federal to state agencies. It was like someone knew that car wasn't stolen. It just didn't get propagated through the system.
How do these like law enforcement agencies share data? Because it's both like there's like a data there's a data integrity problem. There's also just a problem with joining the data. Of course, like there's different levels of sharing. So like certain people may not have access to certain types of data. So like how does this, and I'm sure like you're in one database or you commit fraud against one thing, and how does it all get like joined? Or does
so there's probably 4 layers of data sharing that you can talk about. The first is the default is nothing. The default is like actually nothing gets shared. And it's one of the reasons why it's so easy to be a criminal in America is because it's very little data-driven or technology-driven kind of collaboration. Let's call it level one, which has been in existence now for probably a decade, is email, which I know sounds very silly, but like it is very popular where I'm working a case and I'll send out a bulletin to all nearby agencies via email. Here's a PDF about the case, right? Here's the person who's wanted. Here's all the information I have. And that's like pretty good, but obviously slow.
Or it's like this type of car. It's a silver Toyota. We got like a partial plate. We have these other types of things. There's a guy with red hair or something, in the car.
It's literally a PDF. The kind of third level, which is gaining up some momentum, is things like Slack or GroupMe or WhatsApp, where it's now introducing some level of real time to it. Mm-hmm. And so there's some very successful Slack
groups. This is like a private chat group of cops in different cities that are like helping each other out and stuff.
Yeah, no, like I think it's it might have been Hartford, Connecticut. I think they still use Slack, and they've got a bunch of nearby agencies, officers, detectives are all in this big Slack group. And there's, a narcotics group, there's a particular crime group, and Slack's doing a good job. And I think the issue you run into there is like Slack wasn't built for law enforcement. And so there are certain
there's like weird data retention issues. Like you might be sharing things that are sensitive, right?
And you might be sharing things with someone who like it might be being stored in a way that's actually not appropriate. Yeah. But so there's Slack. And then there's a product that we've built called Nova, which I'd say is, a more sophisticated version of that, where it's truly collaboration at a case level, where I can build an investigation. I can integrate, my jail record data, my criminal record data, open source intelligent, kind of all the data you have access to. And then with one click of the button, I can be like, I actually want to share this from San Francisco PD to Oakland.
Yep.
And it just gets shared. And I can see the entire work stream. Flock manages,
and you can even see who opens it, because every once in a while you have like a investigator maybe does something bad with the data, so you can see, Joe looked at the data and he wasn't supposed to, or something, or whatever.
There's an audit trail. And then I think where we get excited about it is it also opens up an ability for private businesses to collaborate as well. Because if you look at one of the issues that's, kind of plagued Northern California and parts of the country, is this organized retail crime kind of phenomena. And it's one of the safest crimes to commit. And if you're a major retailer, you can't arrest anyone, right? Yeah. So how do you actually work with local law enforcement? You have cameras, you have data, you have investigators, you have all this information. And today you PDF it, put it in a zip file, whatever it may be. And now with Nova, you can actually collaborate with private entities and local government.
And I assume people have cameras too, right? Like some of them can contribute, or how does that work? Like how do the cameras get contributed to law enforcement if you want to contribute them to law enforcement?
Yeah. So in a place like, San Francisco, we'll keep picking on San Francisco because they're a great partner of ours. And I think they're having they're having Mayor Lurie is doing a great job pushing no crime allowed, which I think is the right approach. Obviously, I'm biased. So in San Francisco, you can literally inside a flock.
He's been a guest on this podcast as well.
Oh, no way. He's great. I think he's doing wonderful things for the city. Yeah. So in the case of local businesses, homeowners, you can register your camera inside a flock, and you can do one of two things. You can say, hey, I just want the city to know I have a camera, and I'm open to helping, but I want that to be an ad hoc relationship. I need you have to ask me for help. I'm not just going to give it to you.
If there's a crime, then I could then decide if I want to help.
Yep. And then there's another layer of sharing where you're like, you know what? I just want the city to have access 24/7 to the camera. I don't want to have to be asked. And so you think about if you're a major retailer and you're covering
those are the cameras that don't walk naked in front of, by the way.
Yeah, it's not your home. It's literally a parking lot. And so we see that the business community tends to just provide kind of carte blanche access to the cameras, and private individuals say, hey, you know what, why don't you just let me know if you need help? And I'm happy to participate, but I kind of want to be asked. I don't want to just have you access to my front yard at any time to local law authorities.
Yeah, that makes sense. Where are we, the drone stuff you're doing is super cool, right? To be able to follow someone who does something, right, quickly. I imagine that will help allow us to find a lot of criminals and apprehend them.
Yeah.
Where are we going in the drone world? Like, how do we start seeing that long term?
Yeah. So I think the first thing I'd say is on the drone side, the hero story and the one that everyone jumps to is definitely let's go chase bad guys.
Yeah.
Which has multiple societal benefits. Like high-speed pursuits are one of the most dangerous things that happen in a city. It's
super dangerous.
For law enforcement, dangerous for innocent civilians, dangerous for
the criminal.
The criminals. Like it's not good for anyone.
Yeah.
So like that's a no-brainer use case, which we see day in and day out. I think what I get more excited about longer term is the impact it has to fire and EMS as well. So you think about this today, like one of our most successful case studies in a place like Vacaville is related to fire, not crime.
Yeah.
As you know, in Northern California, like forest fires and fires in general are a huge problem. Imagine if you could have within 30 seconds eyes on a fire that this is actually roaring and it's about to get out of control versus this is actually a false alarm.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful.
So to me, it's more of thinking about drones as just a camera that can fly.
Yeah.
And so like, where would you want a camera?
And you can get there quickly too. Right.
And it moves.
If you don't have traffic or you have, if there's tree in the road or what, there might be a lot of scenarios where it could be hard to get to there.
Yeah. And so for us, we look at that and go, people are expensive. People are very valuable. We should always try to use technology where we can and use humans where we think there is a need for a kind of subjective component to it. And so when I think about that use case, every 911 call, whether it's fire, EMS, or safety, should deploy the drone first. And that's what we're seeing, in places like San Francisco, places like Elk Grove, Vacaville. That's what we're seeing already.
World of DaaS isn't just a podcast. World of DaaS membership is a private, invite-only community for founders and executives of important data and AI businesses. It's a place for off-the-record, high-trust conversations focused on the biggest questions data leaders are facing. The community is about peer learning, curated intros, and access to private events. Everyone in the group is building or leading something meaningful in data. If that sounds like you, apply to join at worldofdaas.com. That's worldofdaas.com.
There's this public perception that, of crime. It's not always related to actual crime. Like, how are those things how do those things move in tandem and how do those things change behavior for both the crime fighters and also the people committing crime?
Yeah, there's some interesting research on the topic because I think as a kind of outsider, my previous assumption was we should just dramatically increase the penalties. And these are logical people and therefore they will make a logical decision and they don't want to go to jail for 100 years. The data shows there's just no correlation between the severity of penalty and the likelihood of a crime happening.
Just to double click on that, I used to live in San Francisco, and I know in San Francisco there are many streets where one side of the street is federal and the other side is San Francisco County. And then on the southern side, one side is San Francisco and the other side is San Mateo County. And I've seen stats where the cars get broken into on the San Francisco side, but not on the federal side. So these are they seem like smart criminals. They know it's better to do there.
They know the likelihood of being held accountable. And that's been the issue in San Francisco.
Not necessarily the penalty, just the likelihood of getting caught is the key thing, not the penalty.
Yeah. And so what you saw in San Francisco for the longest
any punishment would have been, it's really the fact that they weren't getting punished at all, not that the punishment itself needs to be more severe.
Because whether it's a year or 5 years or 10 years,
you're
making a Boolean decision. Yeah. I'm not going to get caught, therefore I'm going to do it.
Correct.
Versus I am going to get caught. And so you look at some of the counties and cities we work with where we've had multiple years of 100% clearance rate, which means there's a 100% chance you're getting caught if you hurt someone.
Yeah.
And violence in those communities is down dramatically.
Yeah. It makes sense. Of course,
you're just not going to do it there.
Yeah.
And you even saw this. I don't know. We highlighted a podcast recently where a fairly famous criminal in the Bay Area was he's out of the game. He's it's too hard between the license plate readers, the cameras, the drones.
Yeah.
It's just it's not working anymore. The economics aren't
do something else. Yeah.
He's going to go get a job. I hope.
That's great.
He's a capitalist.
That's awesome.
chose to be a criminal instead of, you know, like you and me and build companies. But so I look at that and I'm like, Mayor Lurie's doing the right thing in San Francisco, highlighting, you know, that he had a post last night on some of the ATV kind of takeover stuff. And it's going to work.
What's the ATV takeover? What's that?
Yeah, it's this new it's not necessarily too new, but it's called a street takeover, where they kind of block all 4 intersections and just do donuts on other ATVs or, you know, tricked out vehicles, and they bring a bunch of guns, and it's a show of bravado, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It winds up being obviously a huge pain in the butt for citizens who want to just get from point A to point B. It also winds up being dangerous because gangs treat it as a bit of like a rivalry, like who can do the most impressive takedowns. But it's a huge annoyance. And so like Mayor Lurie did a good job last night. He posted
the gang is doing it. The gang
does it. It's not like you and me calling like, hey man, let's go do some donuts.
Oh, got it.
It's like a recruitment tool.
Okay. And this happens in San Francisco, like in Hunters Point or someplace like that in San Francisco.
Every single major city has this in the summers.
Okay.
And it's a huge nuisance. And so it was smart. The mayor did a press conference and said, you know, here are 4 ATVs we just recovered. Those people are now in jail. We also own their vehicles. So like maybe the bigger issue is not even necessarily going to jail. It's that we've taken possession of your ATV. And my guess is that he does that 1 or 2 more times. And I think takeovers are going to go away.
That would be amazing. Okay. That's awesome.
And it will happen. And the cool thing is like
it's kind of simple. Like you do a crime, like there's a consequence, even if the consequence isn't like, you don't need to have 3 strikes you're out. Like any consequence is key.
Do you have kids?
Yes.
Okay. It's the same with kids. Whether they're in timeout for 5 minutes or 5 days, doesn't matter. It's the fact that like there was a repercussion for a poor decision leads to a behavioral change over time. And that's to me very consistent in what you see in cities.
Interesting. Now, when I lived in San Francisco and my car got broken into, I never once reported it to the police. It was just like too big of a hassle. So do we have a sense of like the percentage of crimes that are not reported or underreported?
Yeah. It's an alarming number is how I would describe it. And it is, to your point.
Obviously, like if there was a murder, I would be definitely reporting it. But
that's not consistent though.
You're right. Okay.
So like if you look at you know, one of the more interesting things that we do is gunshot detection. And so one of the reasons why gunshot detection is such an important product for major cities is the sheer number of gun violence that goes unreported.
Yeah.
And so
if I heard a gun, I probably wouldn't call the cops unless it was threatening me specifically or something.
Exactly. Yeah. And most people don't just shoot guns in the air for fun. Obviously, that is like it's not, that's a thing, but it's not that common. It's like we had a crazy case in Wichita, Kansas, where it was, to your point, it was a homicide, had gone completely unreported. And the only reason why Wichita knew it happened is they have our gunshot detection. So they not only knew that it happened, they knew the exact time it happened, they knew the exact location within 50 feet. And they were able to dispatch an officer within seconds.
Oh, wow.
No one ever called 911. And so, look, that's obviously one example.
Yeah.
But it's pretty consistent that in communities that feel like calling 911 is ineffective, like your experience in San Francisco, the reported crime is dramatically lower than the actual crime. But it is community to community that's different. Like I think that if you lived in maybe a different city, you might call every single time your car is stolen. But clearly, you know, San Francisco had some work to do for you.
My car was stolen, I'd be calling. But car broken into. It's like one of those, like, do you really want to like deal with the hassle of spending like 2 hours filling out paperwork,
waiting for a detective, for insurance, and you're like,
exactly. So you know, kind of depends on what's going on there.
Yeah, but it's a pretty significant number though.
In my anecdotal discussions, I don't have good data on this, but my anecdotal discussions with lots of people, it seems that home break-ins seem to be on the rise in America. Home invasions. People sometimes are in their home when people are coming to steal things. Sometimes they're not in their home. Is that true? And you know, these are let's say very wealthy people. These are, you know, very, very wealthy homes. So I guess people are trying to find, I don't know, jewelry or watches or some sort of like very defensible items or something like that. Is this true? Is this actually happening?
So crime in general is going down.
Yeah.
But there's 2 things that four other forces that are going against that trend that make us feel less safe. So the first is just information. Like the flow of information is dramatically faster, right? Orders of magnitude faster today than it was 10 years ago. Between social media, the internet, that didn't exist, right? And so you didn't hear about things. The second thing is our expectations of safety continue to go up every single day.
Yeah.
And so you go to maybe one of the safest cities in America, you go to a place like Atherton. One home break-in a year is enough to cause pitchforks to come out.
Correct.
Now, they don't have that same expectation in Memphis, but eventually Memphis will.
I would say when I lived in San Francisco, there were home break-ins that happened pretty regularly, like someone going to the garage and stealing a bike or something like that. And it was often, homeless guy or like some random thieves or something. When now that I live in Northern Virginia, like I probably have 8 or 9 friends that have had a home break-in, very, very professional, like super, like taking out the cameras before they go in there. Very, very like it's almost like Mission Impossible style coming in and trying to get their stuff there. So it does seem like the professionalism has gone up.
That has definitely changed. And so there is a very accurate, although recently politicized narrative on the sophistication of criminals. And what you're describing is very accurate. I'm good friends with a sheriff in Virginia. Maybe it's your county.
Yeah.
And they have a huge problem on their hands because what these organized South American gangs are doing.
Yeah, these are like Chilean gangs.
They're using
stuff like
drones.
That. Yeah.
They're using illegal drones that they've removed to ADSB. So the law enforcement, no one has any idea the drones are in the air.
Yep.
They'll fly the drone. They'll check out your house. And then they will go hit.
Yep.
And like if you wanted to, we could go down a deep rabbit hole of like, these groups are very sophisticated, and it is a capitalistic activity for them.
And why is it so hard to catch these guys? Like, why is it like, it just seems like, I mean, I got 8 or 9 friends. This is not one anecdote like that have happened to. I've had 3 on the same block that have got broken into. Like, why is this like so hard to catch?
Yeah. I mean, the shortest answer would be they have better technology.
Yeah. Okay.
Like they're more equipped, they're better funded than what your local police department probably has access to. I think the second one is regulatory issues. If you wanted to pick on the drone was an example, a policy that we are fighting very hard to adjust is that local government has zero ability to protect the airspace. Yeah. And so in an ideal world, if you talk to the sheriff, because I've talked to him about this, his big push to the federal government is like, why is it that I can use a gun on the ground, but I can't use some other type of weapon to take down a drone in the air?
Yeah.
Who is expected when that drone is operating in his airspace, and I'd argue it's his airspace, who are we expecting is going to protect your house from that drone?
Yeah.
The FAA is currently being asked to do that. And that is clearly not their mandate.
I mean, it is like taking down a drone is not an easy thing to do. Like you can't, like shooting a drone with a bullet. We're not going to
very difficult. We're not going to use it with traditional bullets.
You can maybe take it down with like an electromagnetic thing or something.
Well, and so we look at that and we go like that's clearly just where regulation is blocking technology from solving a problem. And this is a good example where the bad guys don't have to follow the rules, but the good guys do. And so I've got a sheriff who's like, Garrett, I'd happy to take a shotgun out there and just shoot the thing, but I don't want to break the law because my job is to enforce the law, not break it.
Of course.
It's a bit of a chicken and egg there. We got to get the regulation to open up so we can go build technology for them.
What are some other like crime statistics that are either misunderstood or kind of run against conventional wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you 2. One is a fascinating problem in kind of the supply chain world. So you've got these Eastern European gangs, quite sophisticated, right? And if you look at the way 3PLs work in moving products across the country, from kind of getting them in a port, whether it's Oakland or LA or Savannah, then moving them through, you have these groups that will go in and they will buy a legitimate freight forwarder, right? As a company that's been around maybe for 20 years, and they're going to provide a credible multiple for this, small business owner. They will then turn the company illegal and start stealing 20-foot containers of product, millions and millions of dollars of product. They'll make a couple $1,000,000 and then just literally walk away, turn the company off, disappear. And it creates this like really weird
incentive. And they bought
incentive.
the company for
A couple $100,000.
a couple $100,000. Okay, yeah, okay, got it.
Like they'll clean house, and it creates this problem where there's an incentive misalignment, where like everyone wants the problem to go away, but no one is actually either sophisticated enough or incentivized enough to solve it, because everyone has insurance.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the most fascinating problems we're faced with right now, because it's continuing to grow. It's causing a problem for major retailers in America, but no one has a great solution yet. So that's like one that I find quite interesting that like we're trying to work on with.
But I mean, this has been happening for years. Like if you ever see the movie Donnie Brasco, one of my favorite movies, they're out there like basically heisting, trucks all the time and stuff like that. Maybe in those cases they have to like go with guns and take the truck or something. And
this is like a silent crime.
Yeah.
Like, no one ever knows that crime has been committed until it's months, weeks afterwards. Mm-hmm. And the traceability of the product, you actually can't figure out where things went wrong.
Yeah.
The other one that I think is really interesting that I we're working on quite aggressively is, so if you look like nationwide, generally speaking, you've got about a 50-50 chance getting away with murder. A little bit more than 50%, like 60%. High? Yeah, it's about 60% chance of getting away with murder.
Wait, what? I thought it was really low. I thought most murders are solved.
No. Most murders are not solved.
Really?
It's a 40% clearance rate is a national average.
I didn't know that. I didn't know it was that low. Okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty bad, right?
That's terrible.
That's why Flock exists.
Oh my gosh.
It seems
obviously
unacceptable.
That's the worst crime. That's the number one worst crime. Literally the number one thing I want to solve was that.
Only crime we can't undo.
I want to have a 99% chance of solving the murder. Right?
Should be 100% chance. Like if you kill someone, you should be held accountable.
Yeah.
What's just as alarming is if you don't hurt someone, you have about an 85% chance of getting away with it. So nonviolent crime has about an 85% get away with.
For that particular crime.
Yeah, like if I steal your car, I have an 85% chance of getting away with it.
I assume like someone who steals a car all the time or something. And so if you have 85% chance, so then it's like 15% chance of getting like you run those numbers enough, like there's a high likelihood you will eventually get caught.
You eventually get caught.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
And so
whereas I imagine you don't commit a murder every day or something, something.
I sure hope not. That seems like a very poor way to live your life. But the thing that I ask is, well, why is there even a difference to begin with? Because like it must just be effort then. And then if it's effort, the question I then ask is like, to your first point, how do we get violent crime from a 40% to a 99%?
Yeah.
And then how do we get nonviolent crime from a 15% to a 99%?
Yeah.
Because there really shouldn't be a delta.
Well, it does make sense that there should be a delta, right? I mean, you should be putting
more energy
most of your resources to solve murders, to stop murders, to stop, if there's, serious violent crime or, other types of things that are anything dealing with a gun or something like that, you're probably going to be more serious about.
And that's, I think that the thing that I think about is if one of the benefits of this AI revolution happening is we move to a world of abundance of resources, abundance of intellect. That to me seems like one of the better things that could happen for society is that actually like all crimes are treated equal. Because typically speaking, people don't just kill someone. Yeah. It's actually a progression of you commit a nonviolent crime that typically escalates to violence.
Yeah. I mean, really, it does depend. Like, I know that if you commit a fraud, right? Let's say you commit some sort of fraud and you're stealing money or something like that. I mean, if you steal less than $1 million, like the federal government is not going to be involved in looking at your fraud, and they have a lot more resources, right? Yeah. So, you probably have to steal at least a few million before the federal government's going to get involved. And maybe you have to steal $1 million before the state, and then otherwise you're at the local or something. So it makes sense. Like, and that obviously the federal government just has way more resources. The quality of the people is super high. If you have an AUSA, they're just going to be just like a baller. Like some of the local prosecutors are amazing, but they just don't have the resources. They may not have the other kind of ability to deal with a sophisticated case.
Yeah. But no, so I mean, I think to your point, I just think people are genuinely always shocked at how low clearance rates are in America and
Yeah.
how easy
That
it is.
40% is shocking to me. I had no, and
It's
I'm a
scary,
fairly
right?
knowledgeable person. I had no idea it was that low.
And you obviously are a data guy. You know that there's that there's a standard deviation there too, which means in some places it's in the teens.
It's really low.
It's really bad because, but I mean, it's so rare for a city or county to have 100% clearance rate on violent crime that I can think of only probably one place, maybe two.
Yeah, 100 does seem like almost an unreasonable number, but like, let's get in the 90s. Like that seems like something that we should be able to aim for and get.
But most cities, when they get into the 60s and 70s, start to do a kind of applause tour.
Yeah.
I think it should be really high. I think it should be really high.
What now? There is different places around the world have different levels of baseline surveillance. Right, in London, they're famous for the CCTV. In Dubai, they have this like camera system everywhere. They've got all these different sensors. Obviously, China's kind of certain places in China have this kind of more extreme surveillance model. Like, how do you think the Americans are going to be okay with having a little bit more surveillance, or what's important, what's not? How do we think about those things?
Yeah. Well, I always would first premise that no one elected me the police chief of America or president. So I'll share Flock's point of view. There's really two ends of the spectrum that you described. There is the Chinese and less Dubai, but let's put China and Dubai together. Yeah. Which is like a bordering totalitarian regime, which is controlling crime with fear and censorship and persecution. I don't think that's going to go very well in America. We have this thing called the Constitution.
And I would say there's China, then Dubai. There's a gradation, right?
There's a gradation
because Dubai there is more freedoms. But my friends who live there say, look, I know the government's listening to my calls. Like that's the quid pro quo. Like I live in safety, but the government gets to listen to my calls. But they're completely safe when I walk around, and I'm signing up for. I moved here for that trade.
And if you commit a crime, they can just deport you.
Yeah,
they get out of our country.
They can do whatever they want with you, right?
They don't want you.
Yeah.
And so, let's put that in the very far right. And to your point, let's go China to the farthest right. You've got Dubai right before that, and then if you go all the way to the other spectrum, I won't pick on any certain countries, but there are certain countries where it's clear law and order has evaporated.
Nothing. They have no capabilities to do anything,
and their GDPs are in depression, their economies are dead, and no one wants to live there.
Yeah.
I think there's like a massive gray area that I think if Flock is successful, we allow local communities to pick where they want to end up.
You could end up, got it. And then people could opt into those if they choose to.
And so you look at it and I'll pick on certain places. Like there are certain cities who've chosen to not prioritize safety. And that's their choice. I don't live there, and you don't have to choose to live there, and they're going to have more crime. And then you go look at what San Francisco has been doing recently, and clearly Mayor Lurie and before him, the prior mayor has pushed that city closer towards we want to put significant law and order in place. Yeah, and I think that's going to pay off for it. But I think what's important to me is, to your earlier point, we have the benefit in this country of local governments having a choice.
Tons of experiments. You're right.
And that's great. And I think for me, I prioritize law and order. I think we have rules in place as a society, and we should respect those rules, and we should debate them fiercely, and we should elect people to write those laws and kind of ask our police departments to enforce them. But for me, it's somewhere in the middle. And I think the best case possible is at the state and local level, those elected officials get to pick how aggressive or how unaggressive they want to be for their constituents. Because every city is a little different.
When I meet people in law enforcement, cops, FBI agents, other types of folks, they are mired in paperwork. They're just constantly doing paperwork. They're constantly complaining. People I know who have been in these jobs for a while say the burden has increased over time. They want to be out there fighting crime. They want to be out there solving crimes. They want to be out there preventing crimes. how do we change it? Like, what can we do? Is AI? Can AI do the paperwork for them? And obviously, all these paperwork things that they have to do are not like terrible ideas. They're all put in place for like a good reason, for safety or for accountability or for other types of things. So how do we make it so they can actually do their jobs more?
Yeah, we are pushing a concept that's a little bit different than pure AI. We would call it more amplified intelligence.
Yep.
I think in certain parts of our economy, we just want humans completely out of it. That makes sense. Like, totally fine. I think when it comes to public safety, I think we want humans pretty involved still.
For sure.
I don't think we want to. I think you think about the dystopian fears of something like Minority Report isn't that they actually had a higher, success rate. It's that it was this artificial intelligence that was making decisions. It was this black box of like, why does this precog believe that I'm about to commit a crime? And so
it's a great movie. So I highly recommend. Like, I've met people recently who haven't seen Minority Report. It's an amazing movie.
It's a great, it's a wonderful movie, and an interesting kind of debate on what's better for society. But we look at that and go, no, artificial intelligence isn't the right answer. It's amplified intelligence, where I want a human at the start of the process. That might be someone calling 911 because they're a victim of a crime. They're seeing something bad happening. I want AI, this amplified intelligence, to take over, build the investigation, write the report, do the busy work. But I want a human again at the end making a subjective call on what's right and wrong. I don't think we want to replace that part of what makes us human. And I think to your point on the policy writing and all the legwork, that to me has got to go away. We want cops in the streets. We want cops being parts of a community, not sitting behind a desk. That to me is not the answer.
Now, your company is, in some ways, both bits and atoms.
Yeah.
And everyone talks about how much easier it is to start a bits company in the U.S. than an atoms company, and you're doing manufacturing in the U.S. You're doing all these things. You're building things in the U.S. Walk us through what it's like to, and you kind of have to, manufacture in the U.S. for many things, because what you're doing is sensitive. Like, you can't just like take the random components from China and stuff like that. Walk us through what it's like to being like set up manufacturing in the U.S.
I mean, I think it's easier today so I started the company 8 years ago or so. 8 years ago, it was very uphill battle, particularly with investors, because every investor wants to put you in a bucket, and they're like, okay, Garrett, are you a software company? Well, kind of. Or are you a hardware company? Well, kind of. Are you an AI company? Well, kind of. Are you an operational company? Like, are you a field services? Like, well, kind of have to do it all. And for most investors, that's just too many weird strikes, because each of those presents significant risk. Like, being good at software, hard. Being good at hardware, hard. Being good at manufacturing, also hard. Field services, the list goes down. So that was painful. I mean, we spent hundreds of millions of dollars at this point, close to $1 billion now, investing to make this business even a possibility.
When I see companies like you, I mean, there's like, you guys, right? There's Flock, there's Anduril, which is very similar, right? Except for a different market. You've seen this like massive success of Flock, Anduril, and some others. Like, so I imagine it's like way easier to raise money today just because people have seen that success, right?
Someone else has done it. But I think we're lucky. Like, I went through YC and wound up coming back to Atlanta. And part of the reasons why I went back to Atlanta, and in Georgia in particular, is it is a very pro-business state.
Yes.
Like, it is easier to build this kind of a company in Georgia than other states. Like, we have policies that promote manufacturing for engineering. There's a talent workforce that like wants to do this kind of work.
Yep.
And that, like, so many of those things were right.
There are a lot of factories. There's a lot of car manufacturers and other types of things.
You look
in Georgia.
at Rivian, you look at Hyundai. Like, there's a reason why. They're building in Georgia.
Well, give us some other sense of just. By the way, I love Atlanta. It's one of my favorite cities. I think it's an incredible place. Give us. It seems like a lot of super smart people are there. Give us a sense of like why you like Atlanta. I know you're from there, but why you like Atlanta so much?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the higher ed system in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, I've got SCAD, so Savannah College of Art and Design, from a design perspective. I've got Kennesaw State and Georgia State as incredible
Georgia
places,
Tech, right?
Incredible places to recruit sales talent. From Emory, I can recruit great attorneys and business people. From Georgia Tech, I can recruit great engineers. You've got Morehouse, you have Agnes Scott.
Yeah.
Like, the list goes
Of course,
down.
you got Georgia, like not that far away, a couple hours away.
We don't recruit. We do recruit from UGA. I like to give it a hard time. Yeah, they're a little farther away, but yeah, so you look at it just like incredible talent pool.
Yeah,
and then you combine that, and obviously this doesn't benefit Flock, but benefit my prior businesses. You combine that with a surprising number of Fortune 500 companies that are headquartered in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And you just forget that, like, we've got Home Depot, we have UPS, we have Delta, we have Fiserv, we used to have Truist, we have Truist.
Oh, by the way, it's the biggest city in the Southeast, right? So
yes.
I mean, just like, so you can recruit. You're not just recruiting from Georgia. You can recruit from Tennessee. You can recruit from Mississippi. You can recruit from Alabama. You can recruit from places in Florida. You can recruit from South Carolina, right?
And then you combine that with an incredibly low cost of living, where you can pay someone, a low 6-figure salary, and they're going to put 2 kids through school
and
amazing. Have a nice house that's safe. And it's like, that's not
and a decent school district.
That's a really unique combination where, the benefit that it makes for a place like Flock is our retention numbers are through the roof for our employees. And I obviously think we're a great place to work. Don't get me wrong, but like, it's just people don't job hop as much. They want to get a great career. They want to work really hard, and they want to focus on building a family too.
Other things I like about Atlanta is, you mentioned universities there. The other few things I really like about Atlanta is, one, it's just like the airport's super connected, right? It's obviously the biggest airport in America. You can get anywhere from there. So if like you live in Austin, like you often have to, it's like harder to get places from Austin, right? You don't have like a major airport. DC, you can get places, but Austin, it's just like the airport's just not as connected, right? Like you have to go to Dallas to get the connected one if you live in Austin or something, right?
Yeah.
And then the second thing about Atlanta is, it's good weather, right?
Yeah.
Like it's maybe one of the best weather places in America. It's great. You can, it's easy to go outside. So it's nice place. And then the third is actually like a fun city. It's a really, really, really fun city. So if you're a 28-year-old, a 25-year-old, like it's fun. It's fun to be single there. It's fun to be married there. There's great restaurants. Like it's just you can have a good time there. Like any major city, it would be like at that kind of stage.
Yeah, totally agree.
Why aren't there more companies being started there?
Oh man, what it's, if I had the answer to that question, I think the biggest issue is just the lack of successful exits creates a kind of downward spiral.
You have like MailChimp, Calendly, like you've got some good ones in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, but like, think about what's the last company that went public in Atlanta and had a good IPO?
CNN or something. Yeah.
No, it goes all the way back to ISS, Internet Security Systems.
Oh my gosh.
That was and that was in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
And that's the issue, right? And so you look at, we've had a couple at bats, and I think MailChimp's a great company. Yeah. But like, it didn't mint 500 millionaires that had the appetite to go start a company. Yeah. And even if you look at us and you look at OneTrust and Stored and other companies, and like, none of us are public, and that I think creates a problem.
Okay, interesting. What now? There's all this there's been all this gov tech talk now. All public. There's all this, people want to put money into public safety related things. Where do you see the market looking like if you had to advise other companies that want to go broad, not to compete against you, but just broadly get into this space? Like, how would you be advising them?
Yeah, I think that there was. So you mentioned Andrel. Trey is a good friend and an investor in Flock through Founders Fund.
Yeah, he's amazing. Also been a guest of World of DaaS. Yes, also an amazing guy.
Saw that. Yeah. He's a great guy. And the history on Flock, right? Our original market was not public safety; it was neighborhoods, and it's still a nice part of our business. And I was contemplating going into law enforcement, and Trey was like, "Don't do it." We tried it at Palantir. Yeah. It's a horrible market. And I was like, Trey, I got customers calling me, want to give me money. Tell me why. And I don't know if it's like a 2x2 or probably, like an AXI. It's probably an AXI of sales cycle and ACV. And so you either have to have really big ACVs if you want a big sales cycle. But if you get stuck in a quadrant of low ACV and long sales cycle, you die.
Yeah.
And that is generally speaking local government. Local
Yeah,
government takes a very long time to
Obviously,
buy.
there's like successful companies like OpenGov that have, you know, relatively low ACVs and super long sales cycles, and they've figured it out somehow.
But still took 14 years
Correct.
to get to, you know, 100 million of ARR. So not necessarily, you know, the latest kind of push for fast growth.
Yeah,
with
not
AI.
the triple, double stuff. Yeah.
No, or even the like, you know, 1 to 10 to 100, whatever people expect these days.
Yeah.
And so you look at that and you have to really ask yourself, do I just believe that I'm going to have outsized ACVs, or am I going to have undersized sales cycles? And at Flock, we were fortunate that, you know, our sales cycles were really, really fast, you know, under 90 days. And that's the only reason why we've been successful.
That's insane because like most of the SaaS companies I'm in have like sales cycles longer than that. Like why it's just because it's compelling, like, or it's just like they have a problem where like the politician's going to get fired if they don't do something, or
The best analogy I've come up with is, so as a CEO, I think about two things, right? Either generating more revenue or saving money.
Yeah.
When I get a pitch to save money, I send it to my CFO. I'm like, hey, we should look into this. When I get a pitch that's like, I can help drive your growth, I'm like, I'm taking that demo myself.
Yeah.
And if I like it, I'm going to buy it on the spot because I'm measured as a CEO on the growth of my business.
Yeah.
For a police chief, revenue growth equates to solving crime.
Yeah.
And so if you sell some widget that's going to save his people time, he's like, this is really interesting. Thanks for the time.
Yeah.
But when you show him a product that within minutes helps him solve crime, he will move mountains to buy that product. And that's what Flock does. Like we go in and we are revenue generating for a city in that regard.
You're solving crime,
correct?
Because obviously, like, and every police chief has like they've got stats on what they have to solve and how those stats work, and they got to move the stats, right?
He's going to show up. And think about this in the case of, you know, maybe an example that's closer to home for you guys. Like if there goes an unsolved murder in your town in Northern Virginia, that police chief's going to lose his job over not being able to solve that crime.
But there were companies like this in the past, you know, ShotSpot or all these other companies that have been, you know, around, you know, for a while, that didn't grow as fast, that had difficulties at their, you know, is it just because their product wasn't like, I assume at some point, like you have to have a great product too, right? You know, it's
the product just wasn't as good. I mean, I think the ShotSpotter product is a good example. ShotSpotter in itself is a product that works. It will triangulate a gunshot. It will not solve a homicide, though.
Yeah.
It will give you a data point. And so what we figured out is, well, if you combine gunshot detection with license plate readers and a drone, I know the gunshot happened. I can get a camera on site in 30 seconds, and I can track the car.
You got to launch the drone right away to get there, so you can have eyes in the sky, right? Okay, yeah.
So that's a different, like that's a fundamentally. We don't commit
I love
to
that.
knowing.
Like, okay, great. Like, so we got like you hear a gunshot, like you should have at least one drone, maybe more, in the air, like as soon as possible, covering that area, looking for anomalies, looking for things that are going on, getting all the license plates in that area, getting all the other people fleeing or whatever else. Yeah, that makes complete sense to me.
And then we're not going and selling, hey, we can tell you a gunshot occurred. That's not actually that interesting. We can say, Chief, we will get you to 100% clearance rate on homicides. That's our commitment to you.
Yeah.
You got to buy you have to buy this whole suite of products. So that's the big difference.
Okay. Interesting. A couple personal questions. So I'm obsessed with people's names. Okay. Your last name is Langley, which, you know, in many people equate with being a spy and law enforcement and things like that. Do you think your last name has something to do with what you're doing today?
Oh man, no. So it's an interesting story. So to your intro, I was fortunate to sell 2 companies before this.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if I was going to work again. And my uncle, who's kind of my closest mentor, said, look, you're good clearly at like finding problems and building companies around it. Go build something that's not so dopey. And he kind of looked at the prior businesses I'd started, and I think in his eyes they were dopey.
Yeah.
It's kind of businesses that like they help people, but they don't really matter.
Yeah.
Like they disappear, no one cares.
If it didn't exist, it wouldn't really change people's lives.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And so when we started Flock, Paige and Matt and I said, okay, we're only going to build non-dopey businesses. And we looked at a bunch of ideas, and Flock's just the one that kind of got product market fit first. And 8 years later, here I am solving a lot of crime.
Because speaking of businesses, you have like a list of startup ideas on
Yeah.
your website. Some of them are a little dopey. And
Fair.
the number one is in toilets.
Yep.
Like, what's the vision in the toilets?
Um, so toilets have not largely changed since the Roman Empire, and
Yeah.
I'm not that guy who's going to go on a long tangent on the Roman Empire. But largely, the Romans developed what we would consider as modern toilets today, where you sit down, there's water flowing, there's a
Yeah.
sponge. We've made some things better. They're less communal today than they used to be. It used to be
Yeah.
pretty open air kind of group concept. We've made it a little bit more private, but it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple companies. One of those is called Throne, which I think is pretty cool. They're trying to introduce kind of a modern take on the biome is like we don't track ourselves very well.
Yeah.
And what you excrete is actually like a really good indicator of what's going
Yeah,
on in your body.
totally. You should have some sort of like, that should be a really great way of like getting some data or something.
So I look at that and I look at like the ergonomics. There's a handful of things that are just fundamentally wrong with toilets today.
Yeah.
And if I had been able to convince my wife that it was a good use of my time, I probably would be in the toilet business. But
yeah, I mean, at my office,
like
we have like the nice heated one and everything.
Oh, yeah,
and
it's like,
it's definitely a pleasure. Like when you're there, you're like, I'm definitely taking longer when I'm there or sitting on my phone or whatever. It's very nice. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. All
right, a couple more personal questions. Two, we ask all of our guests. What is a conspiracy theory that you believe?
I think paleontology is a joke of a science. I obviously think dinosaurs are real.
Okay.
I think dinosaurs are real. Or let me rephrase that. I think life on Earth has been around for millions of years.
Yeah.
But I've got young children in our house, my kids, and I'll read these books, and I'm looking at these pictures of dinosaurs, and I'm like, this is completely made up. There's no way they knew this dinosaur had this pattern and it had feathers here and had a form. I'm like, BS. This is a bunch of people playing science. I think that it's just so far off from what it probably looks like.
Okay, yeah, I think that's almost certainly true. Yes, yeah, I agree with that. Okay.
Oh, debate that with a paleontologist, and I think they would be quite offended. But
okay, all right, that's good to know. We'll have a paleontologist in World of DAS soon. A last question we ask all of our guests: what conventional wisdom or advice do you think is generally bad advice?
Starting companies. I mean, the number of people I see starting a company while in college, they're 18 or 19. I think it's totally ludicrous. Like, you have such a short worldview of like what problems actually matter to society. You have no experience. And I think most of those kids, but they're still kids, would be way better off joining a company that's got product market fit.
Learning.
To just get some, like, and I'm not saying college is better. I actually don't think college is particularly productive. But I wish more 18-year-olds that were thinking about, do I want to go start a company? Do I want to go to college? Would just go join a Series B, Series C company that's still super small. Like, if you join a 200-person company, that is a tiny, tiny company. And the scale of things, you're going to learn so much so fast. You'll also build a better network. Like, to me, I don't get this big push of like, everyone should go start a company. I think entrepreneurship is incredible, obviously, but I think there's a right time and place. And I don't think it's when you're 18. I think it's when you're maybe mid-20s, late 20s, I think is like the ideal window to start a company.
But are that many people who are 18, or 22 starting companies? I mean, outside of IC?
Yeah. I mean, I look at my own alma mater, Georgia Tech, which is like very, very focused on trying to drive entrepreneurship for their students.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a wasted effort compared to that same energy being applied to like go join companies, like go join earlier stage companies. There's no energy, in my opinion, at the collegiate level getting students to think about joining venture-backed companies, at least in the Southeast. Maybe it's different at Stanford, but in the Southeast, like, it is hard for me to compete with a Coca-Cola, which feels crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that feels crazy to me. But those kids who are thinking about a place like Flock, and like maybe Flock 2 years ago, they're going to want to just go and building a company because they can go raise $250,000 in a seed round. And I just think they'd be more successful. To your question of like, how do we get better companies in Atlanta? That's probably what I'd push for. It's like, go join successful companies that are ramping up and learn there first.
Now, I went to Georgia Tech 2 years ago. I'd never been there. I'd never been to the campus before. Obviously worked with a lot of people from Georgia Tech, but never been to the campus. The campus is awesome.
Yeah.
And what I liked about the campus, it's like kind of integrated within the city. I walked there from where I was in the city. You could walk from, even the super touristy part, like from the Coca-Cola Museum, you could walk up to Georgia Tech. It's not, it's not that long of a walk, even from there. I feel like it is kind of like underappreciated. Like I feel like it's not as well known. Why is it so underappreciated?
It's a good question, because I think on an international scale, we probably get more respect than on a domestic scale.
Yeah, I know a lot of international people that went there. Like that's how they ended up in the United States. They came from all over the world to get their masters there or something.
Yeah, I wish I had a great answer for you, because for me, at least, that's the only school I applied to.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even contemplate. I was like, why would I leave Atlanta when it's free to go to Georgia Tech? And then also, it benefited me and my wife there too, which makes it kind of.
I went to a Georgia Tech football game, and while Georgia Tech did not win the football game, it was an awesome experience. Like it was so fun. The stadium was great because it's intimate, and it was packed. I mean, completely utterly packed. It was it's just a really cool place to be.
I agree. And it's in downtown Atlanta, so it's a pretty fun place to live. So
yeah, exactly. All right, this has been amazing. Thank you, Garrett Langley, for joining us on World of DaaS. I'm connected with you on LinkedIn. I definitely encourage our listeners to engage with you there. This has been super interesting, as I knew it would be, and a ton of fun.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to World of DaaS wherever you consume your podcasts, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and more. And please help us get discovered by leaving a review. And check out worldofdaas.com. That's worldofdaas.com. And of course, connect with me on Twitter @Auren. That's AUREN. Would absolutely love to hear from you.